Welcome back to the HOA Nightmare Saga. In Part 1, you saw how Margaret, the tyrannical HOA president, fined me for everything from my mailbox to my dog. But now, the story gets more intense. In Part 2, I discovered her hidden hypocrisy, uncovering the ways she broke the rules herself while punishing neighbors unfairly. This chapter reveals the first cracks in her armor and shows how a single determined resident can start gathering the evidence to fight back. The reality of my new neighborhood was beginning to reveal itself in ways I hadn't anticipated. Margaret, the HOA president, whose polished smile and authoritative presence had first seemed like harmless community oversight, now loomed over me like a storm cloud. After enduring fines for trivial things, a mailbox color, grass height, and even my dog's quiet bark, I realized the problem wasn't the rules. The problem was her. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Perhaps I had unknowingly broken some rule. Perhaps this was a misunderstanding. But the pattern was undeniable. Margaret wielded her authority like a weapon, targeting me with precision, while ignoring far more blatant violations around the neighborhood. It was personal, not procedural. Determined to fight back intelligently, I began poring over the HOA bylaws. This task could have been tedious, even mind-numbing. But I approached it with a strategy. I would dissect every word, uncover inconsistencies, and locate loopholes that even a seasoned HOA president would not anticipate. This was not mere rebellion. It was preparation. Hours turned into days as I compared clauses, cross-reference amendments, and scrutinized Margaret's actions against the official HOA regulations. And the more I discovered, the angrier I became. But it was a measured anger, one that fueled strategy rather than impulsivity. Every rule she had enforced selectively, every fine she had levied disproportionately, contrasted sharply with her own blatant infractions. Margaret's mailbox, far from the approved design, stood proudly on her lawn. Her hedges towered over the maximum height allowed, shading her entire front yard. Unapproved furniture lined her porch. Every single one of these violations was documented in black and white within the HOA's own rules, but she remained untouchable. She had built her reign on fear and selective enforcement, believing no one would ever notice the cracks in her fortress. I started recording everything. Hidden cameras, photographs, detailed notes. I left no detail unchecked. Margaret's meticulous surveillance of my property became my evidence. Each walk past my home, each clipboard in hand, every scrutinizing glance was captured. Her tyranny was visible, and now it was also recorded. Yet knowledge alone was not enough. I had to understand her psychology to exploit it. Margaret thrived on control. Her self-worth was entwined with her perceived authority. She demanded compliance because the illusion of omnipotence was her foundation. By remaining calm, patient, and observant, I could turn that need for control against her. Every letter she sent, every fine she imposed, became a thread in the web I was quietly weaving. I also realized the power of comparison. By examining the neighborhood objectively, I documented violations by other residents, vehicles parked illegally, gardens unkempt, decorations unapproved, but none were fined. Margaret's favoritism was blatant. Each unfair punishment directed at me, paired with her ignorance of others' infractions, painted a picture of hypocrisy so stark it would be impossible to deny. As I organized this evidence, I began to see the full scope of her control. Her dominance was not merely procedural. It was psychological. She used fear to isolate residents, uncertainty to disempower them, and selective enforcement to maintain the illusion of impartial authority. Understanding this allowed me to plan my next moves with precision. I wasn't just gathering evidence. I was mapping the architecture of her tyranny, learning exactly where her vulnerabilities lay. The deeper I dug, the more I uncovered. Public records revealed tax discrepancies linked to her property, a home extension that was never declared, underreported valuations, and signs of financial negligence that could have serious repercussions. This wasn't just hypocrisy. It was potential legal liability. Margaret had built an empire of intimidation, but in her overconfidence, she had left cracks wide enough for a hammer. Yet, as satisfying as discovery was, I maintained a calculated exterior. Every encounter with Margaret I portrayed as compliant, docile, even beaten down. To her, I was still the perfect target, frazzled, fearful, and easy to manipulate. Little did she know, behind every polite nod, behind every check mark on a fine she sent, I was preparing a storm that would catch her completely off guard. In parallel, I began gathering stories from neighbors, quiet conversations, casual mentions at mailboxes, careful inquiries into their own finds and experiences. The realization spread quickly. Margaret's reach was despotic, but also inconsistent. Residents were being manipulated, intimidated, and silenced. Each story confirmed what I had discovered. This was not governance. It was a personal campaign of control. By the end of this chapter of investigation, I had built a dossier, meticulous, undeniable, and damning. It included her own violations, my evidence of harassment, financial irregularities, and the accounts of those she had victimized. The pieces of the puzzle fit perfectly, waiting for the right moment to strike. And in this preparation, the tension grew. Margaret's power remained outwardly absolute, but the structure was brittle. Every visit she made, every fine she issued, only added weight to the cracks forming beneath her throne. The final revelation in this stage of my plan was clarity. I understood Margaret completely. Her control relied on fear, her authority was selective, and her oversight was hypocritical. Armed with knowledge, strategy, and evidence, I could begin the next phase, turning isolation into alliance and fear into rebellion. And as I sat late one night, reviewing my organized files, the sense of inevitability settled over me. Margaret's reign, carefully cultivated for over a decade, had weaknesses so glaring I could not ignore them. The seeds of revolt were ready to be sown. But timing, as always, was everything. Don't miss Part 3, where I start building alliances and breaking her control. Subscribe and hit the notification bell to follow the full journey as the HOA drama escalates and Margaret's reign begins to crumble.